and thank all of you for being here. This is certainly an important hearing, and we appreciate all your expertise. Mr. O'Reilly, I want to start with you. In preparing for this hearing, I reviewed this legislation and this bill, and I reviewed it with my staff as well. I'm having a little bit of trouble, and I wanted to know if you could help me understand exactly what digital equity means. It seems like it's very broad to me. It seems like it includes not only speeds, but devices, applications, contents, digital literacy, and a whole lot more. And I just want to know if you can articulate for me exactly what digital equity is.
Well, I think the term is intended to be very broad to meet a population that may not be a subscriber today or may not be a user, to bring them online and to deal with all of their potential needs. And you're right, as I read it, it deals with devices and literacy and a bunch of different components all tied to one.
Is there a clear understanding of what the federal role should be in any kind of digital equity program?
Well, I'd have to defer to those that are still in the roles, but I don't know that I can exactly determine where this money would go or how you would spend it. I worry that it could be misused or could go to some really suspect programs. We've done that we had that in the 90s. There were a couple of different programs, not exactly and weren't called digital equity, but they connected a number of different communities, and some of it was wasted, and some of it just didn't go for what was intended. And so I think it's very it can be vague, and I don't want to criticize the intent, but I think that there's some certainly could be addressed.
And I have to say, I believe it's intentionally vague, just for that reason. I'm not trying to question anyone's intentions here, but I do believe that is the case. Don't you think that language like this could it potentially the $1.3 billion digital equity program, could it potentially prevent it from simply replacing the Lifeline program or the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program by just subsidizing the cost of internet?
Well, it could be a source for that purpose. It can also do everything else that those programs don't do, and you can have this big, huge package of services potentially. I don't know exactly what could go in this space at the current moment. I'll tell you this though, as a former regulator, as I read it fairly broadly, and I could see where you can basically spend the money anywhere you want to. And make up an argument for where the money should go. And that doesn't mean it would be wasted. It just means that you could, when the Congress writes very broad language, it gives a regulator broad authority to kind of interpret where it wants to go. And if it's just that's what the goal is, well, then that's the public policy decisions being made.
Well, and that's what concerns me, because I feel like we defer too many times to the agencies and don't make our intent clear. So that's why I'm concerned about this, because I think it's extremely broad, and I think it leads to what some people may interpret to be waste, and we need to be more specific. And I just think that we're falling down on our responsibilities as members of Congress to do just such. So let me ask you there. Go ahead.
I fully support addressing affordability, and I think there's ways to go about it. And Congress has looked at some of that in a bipartisan way in the EBB program. I couldn't agree with you more that the more specificity Congress can provide, the better. Answer which way you want us to go. Even as a former, if I disagreed, it's irrelevant. Congress has decided. Make it as specific as you want to. That helps the agency. It just is a decision you make, and the agency can bless it, rather than trying to guess what the interpretation should be and going down roads that it wasn't supposed to go.
And I couldn't agree with you more, and I could name numerous examples of where we've done just such. So, listen, one last thing before my time's running out here, but this act proposes a number of different concerning changes for me, such as redefining unserved areas. What do these changes mean for satellite and fixed wireless connections? And because of those changes, ultimately, what do they mean for consumer prices and competition?
Well, I think as defined by people who advocate for it, they want it to be fiber and would exclude all other technologies. And so in terms of competition, there necessarily wouldn't be. It'll be either fiber or not. Maybe some places there'll be multiple fiber providers, but really you wouldn't see competition. And you'd have to, and that would be, then they regulate the rates and different things to try and keep the rates down through government means.
Great. And that's all of my time. Thank y'all. Thank all of you, and especially you, Mr. O'Reilly. And I yield back.
Thank you.